All right, welcome everybody to another edition of Spark Talks. Today we are joined by Corey Tyler, who is a partner at Spark 360 and runs a lot of our pharma work. Corey, why don't you say hello and give us a little bit of information on your background?
Thanks, Evan. Good to be here today. Hello to everyone who's seeing this. Happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation. A little bit of my background is I've been in supply chain my whole life. Actually went to school for it. Spent a lot of years at Baxter Healthcare, running and operating the logistics arm for Baxter for many years, both operationally, executive wise, corporately, name it. We got pulled into it, so it was a lot of fun. I've also done a lot of work around the world as freight forwarders, working for freight forwarders themselves, on both sides of the desk, operating as well as selling and helping the company. So been around this for a long time, too long.
And with your specific background in pharma and your years of experience there, we're seeing a lot of changes. There's a lot of tariffs. Sometimes tariffs are on, they're off, but there's always this fear of tariffs and a lot of global trade uneasiness. How are you seeing pharma companies in particular adjusting to that?
Yeah, so it's certainly a challenging time. And the number one answer tends to be expedite, right? Let's get it here faster. Let's get more of it here. Many companies are taking those challenges to heart and really going after them. Um, One of the things that's been a little bit unique and some of our clients, because they come ask us, we keep getting questions regularly on, looking at capacities. Is there other capacity out there we can get our hands on? And the first capacity is freight capacity, but we're also seeing on storage capacity as well. People are asking about storage capacity. What else is out there? So it means that they're trying to bring as much in as they could early, to stay away from this. I think that's a very short term item, the storage capacity, but we're doing, we got customers doing empty bin counts and just trying to get a rough number. They've never looked at their capacities in their warehouses,
Mhm.
some of them. Now they are.
Now's the
So
time.
it,
Yeah.
it gets down to the operators. It's changing some of the things they're doing. But expedite is the big thing for sure. We also have seen some looking at working with their import customs brokers as, hey, is there an HTS? Am I right in my HTS numbers? Is this the correct number? And challenging, just double verifying that those HTS numbers are right and accurate. And is there something else? Um, Maybe it's for research. If it's for research, then it goes under a different
Oh,
HTS number that could potentially get them around some of this. So
well, that's an interesting strategy. And overall, as economies are tightening and companies are looking to save money wherever they can, we all know it often falls to the warehouse guys to find ways to make savings, right? So, what kinds of pressures are you seeing in the field?
yeah, so the budgetary pressures are constant. They just seem to grow every year, right? The Historically, again, back to that capacity, everybody's thought capacities are endless, right? They're not. We all know they're not. And so people are forced to find more capacity in what they're doing today. Um, a big thing that people are looking at is just the packaging and the order efficiencies. So one way that we've seen some companies get after their costs is really about order efficiencies. It's about quantities. One example is I'm only sending you full case quantities. I'm not sending you eaches anymore.
Mhm.
Changing some of those things, try to get to making each unit more cost effective, right? And so if you think about it, a case, an each versus a case versus a half a pallet versus a pallet, every time you make those steps, it becomes more efficient. That is changing what they're asking their customers to do in some instances as well. But it is taking cost out of the process, trying to find that efficient level. Um, the other thing that's causing issues is just these peaks, as we've seen out of Europe and other places. The peak is hit ocean first, trying to beat the tariffs, and now it's in the middle of air, and charters are going on, and all kinds of things are going on in the marketplace that's creating a peak. Well, it's going to calm down after this peak, or at least theoretically it should. So now what are you going to do, right? And trying to make sure that you're doing what you can during the peak, but also doing more than you can
Right.
during the valley to help make that fit better in the middle. Um,
No,
just some examples. The valley is as important as the peak. We're in the
that's
peak though.
that's an interesting perspective on that. But along those lines, what are some strategies that companies are doing to cut costs while ensuring compliance and safety?
Yeah, so specifically around cold chain, we're seeing companies spend more time looking at temp ranges and temp studies specifically. Um, Meaning everybody knows storage temp, the product's labeled for a storage temp, but does that really mean transportation temp?
Hmm.
And so companies are now looking at transportation temps as a different level. So the example is storage temp is 2 to 8C, but if I can transport at 20 to 25 or even 15 to 30, because it's a much shorter time period, I can take an awful lot of costs out of the process. Um, so getting to those transportation temp ranges versus storage temp is a big deal. Um, Lots of others are looking at various ways on cold chain packaging, reusability, making sure that they're not throwaways and that they're being used over and over and over, and building that full circle loop is an important piece of that. And then lastly, we've seen some, it's a historic thing that was done when I was at Baxter, but we're seeing some come back to looking at mean kinetic temperature studies,
Hmm.
meaning what's my mean kinetic happening to that product while it's in transit, and is it really changing it over that time, and what does that do to my stability? So there's some mean kinetic temps studies going on that we're seeing too that can really help take those peaks and valleys out of the equation. So that's
So,
from
so
a
help me understand the studies you're talking about. Like, how does that work? How long does it take? What's the cost payout, and what's the potential savings for a company?
Yeah, so when you're doing stability studies, they take a long time. You can do accelerated stability studies, but they're still can be out there at 6 months,
Mhm.
right? When you're doing a transportation temp study, you're really only looking at that over the course of a week, right? And then looking at what's my stability doing afterwards and monitoring it. You're testing certain things right up front to see if it's changed, and it hasn't. Odds are it's going to be just fine. So it depends. Each company has their own way. It's a little bit different in every company and how they look at it, but it can happen much faster. We have a company that we've supported that are making decisions off a transportation temp study within a month. Um, just because their product, they know it's not going to change. They know enough about their product. They just need that first month to understand, and then they can make a decision. So can happen much faster. I'm not saying it happens for every company that way, but it certainly can.
Excellent, very interesting. And these are just a few of things that we've been talking about in recent weeks. But if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, the best way is probably my email. It's corey.tyler@spark360.com, corey.tyler at spark360. Spark with a Q, I always say,
Thank you.
spark360.com.
And I'll put the email down there in a banner so that people can grab that if they
Great.
want to reach you. And you're going to be at Lonja Pharma. For those that are watching this in the first quarter or so of 2025, You and some of your colleagues will be at Lodge Pharma in Lyon in April. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Looking forward to it. Should be a fun event.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned.
Thank you.